pelantikan atau hakim ini untuk Sabah dan Sarawak kalau ikut dalam peraturan fasal perlembagaan memang dirujuk kepada Jendela Petua Sabah dan Sarawak sebelum dikemukakan dipersembahkan kepada Jendela Pertuan Agong.
Anwar added that the government will also examine the state of court buildings in the two regions, as some have been found to be in poor condition. All ministers have been ordered to go through the 2021 Auditor General's report and act on its recommendations. Prime Minister Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim wants all cabinet members to focus on the report's remarks on expenditure, leakages and failure to abide by regulations with their relevant ministries.
Untuk kali ini, saya telah minta supaya Jemaah Menteri melihat secara serius teguran-teguran ini supaya tidak berulang, kerana laporan Ketua Audit Negara ini kadang-kadang memberikan syur-syur tetapi kesilapan atau keterlanjuran yang sama itu diteruskan untuk tahun demi tahun.
However, Anwar said today's cabinet meeting decided not to disclose the report at this juncture to give space for the relevant agencies under the ministries to respond. He added that the National Audit Department will announce the report at a time they deemed fit and table it in the next Parliament session.
Employers can start applying for the recruitment of foreign workers through the Labour Recalibration Programme RTK 2.0 from January 27th. According to Immigration Director General Datuk Seri Khairul Zaimi Daud, a total of 8 sectors would be eligible to apply. The 8 sectors are manufacturing, construction, mining, security, service, agriculture, farming, and the newly added domestic helper sector. Employers may start applying for appointments via the department's website on January 27th, and the entire process should be finalized within 3 weeks of the appointment. The recalibration program will be held until the end of the year. Previously, the program, which went on until December 31st, 2022, saw more than 410,000 undocumented migrants sign up to be regularized as legal foreign workers who could be employed by eligible employers. The program also allows undocumented migrants to voluntarily return home if they meet certain conditions set by the authorities. Health Director General Tan Sri Dr. Noor Hisham Abdullah clarified today that there are no conclusive link between the Pfizer bivalent COVID-19 vaccine and strokes among senior citizens. He said the claim was merely a safety signal released by the U.S. Food and Drug Administration and the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention (CDC).
The agency said it recently detected a possible safety issue in which people 65 years and older were more likely to have an ischemic stroke 21 days after receiving the Pfizer bivalent vaccine. Noor Hisham assured that all safety signals that are detected need to be investigated and evaluated first before being confirmed. He added that the National Pharmaceutical Regulatory Agency (NPRA) will continue its close monitoring of the COVID-19 vaccines in use in Malaysia. Pfizer's bivalent vaccines were granted conditional approval in Malaysia by the Drug Control Authority on December 13th, with the public expected to have access to them by the end of this month. The new bivalent vaccines contain the spike protein of the original strain and also those of the Omicron subvariants BA1 and BA45.
We'll go for a quick break. Stay tuned for more.
Nampak gaya dua-dua ni nak DG Fiber. Adik pun berhajat nak talent family kan?
Ceritanya semua orang nak.
Ini pelajar terbaik untuk sekeluarga.
A report by the International Labour Organization found flexible working hours, such as those introduced during the pandemic, can bring benefits for economies, businesses and workers. We speak to John Messenger, lead author of the International Labour Organization's Working Time and Work-Life Balance report, about how flexible working arrangements affect productivity.
It's both reduced and flexible working hours that contribute to better work-life balance and productivity. Because, for one thing, shorter working hours actually are more productive than longer working hours. It's a myth that long working hours equal high productivity. In fact, the countries and organizations, companies that happen to have the highest productivity are those with the shorter working hours. And longer working hours are associated with lower productivity. In addition to that, more flexible working arrangements that enable workers to be able to organize their work schedules in line with their personal needs provide them with a better work-life balance, which in turn provides companies with benefits. Why? Because of something we call reciprocity. It's throughout the social science research. Reciprocity simply means you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. If they see an organization or a manager doing for them, helping them, assisting them with organizing and meeting their own personal needs, then they give the extra effort for them. Also, it also cuts down on things like absenteeism and turnover as well.
To ensure productivity levels remain optimal in the long run, John recommends a results-based approach to measuring workers' output instead of the traditional hours spent during work.
You need to be sure that in addition to having the right technology, in addition to having, the kind of equipment that you need, you also need to help workers by providing them with training in how you telework effectively, and help managers in terms of managing remote teams effectively, because it's very different than managing in person. You got to do it by results. You need a results-based approach. And that allows you not to be worried about whether a worker is working at a particular time or not. You don't judge them based on the number of hours they're working or when they're working. You judge them based on their results. If you have a clear management by results strategy, and if you have a work plan with specific deliverables, you judge them based on that, and that is how you can manage effectively. But you have to, as I said, also have a framework, some kind of legal, regulatory framework, or at least at company level, very clear rules, and that should include specific disconnection practices where you disconnect between working days, on weekends, and also on holiday periods to ensure that workers have time for rest and to basically recharge their batteries, and also for their personal lives. And that in turn will benefit businesses because they'll be more productive, because they won't be so fatigued. They actually will have rested and relaxed and be able to come back fully charged for the next work week or the next working period.
A Philippine court has acquitted journalist Maria Ressa and news outlet Rappler of tax evasion, ending years of trial for cases she said were politically motivated. Ressa, who founded Rappler, has been the target of legal action launched by the Philippine government under former President Rodrigo Duterte.
These charges, as you know, were politically motivated. They were incredible to us. A brazen abuse of power and meant to stop journalists from doing their jobs.
Under Duterte, the Philippine government had accused the Nobel laureate and Rappler of evading tax payments when it raised capital through its partnership with foreign investors.
This acquittal, kahit na medyo matagal po, is not just for Rappler. It is for every Filipino who has ever been unjustly accused.
The government had also repeatedly tried to shut down Rappler, one of the few Philippines media outlets critical of Duterte's government and its war on drugs, in which more than 6,200 people died in anti-narcotics operations. Rappler is still fighting a 2018 government order to shut down. Ressa won the 2021 Nobel Peace Prize along with Russian journalist Dmitry Muratov for her efforts to safeguard freedom of expression in the Philippines. She still faces 3 other criminal cases, including a cyber libel conviction that is currently on appeal. Ukraine's Interior Minister Denis Monastyrsky is among at least 17 people killed in a helicopter crash in the capital Kiev. It is not immediately clear yet what caused the crash, but the chopper carrying top officials was said to be on their way to Kharkiv in eastern Ukraine. Officials often fly at low altitude to avoid Russian missiles. The cause of the crash is being investigated.
Monastyrsky, who is responsible for the police and national security, is the most senior Ukrainian official to die since the war with Russia began. Others dead include his first deputy minister and state secretary when the helicopter came down near a kindergarten in the town of Brovary. Ukrainian and Russian forces fought for control of Brovary in the early stages of the war until Russia's troops withdrew in early April. The crash follows another tragedy that saw 45 people killed after a Russian missile struck a residential building in the eastern city of Dnipro over the weekend.
Tokyo's High Court found 3 former executives of Tokyo Electric Power Company, TEPCO, not guilty of negligence over the Fukushima nuclear power plant disaster in 2011. The court upheld a lower court decision in 2019 that acquitted the 3 defendants, noting that they could not have predicted a massive tsunami that crippled the power plant.
The court said former TEPCO chairman Tsunehisa Katsumata and the 2 other former executives were also not guilty of causing the deaths of 44 elderly patients whose already waning health deteriorated when they were evacuated after the disaster. Prosecutors argued that the company could have prevented the disaster had the plant installed sufficient safety measures before the tsunami. The case is the only criminal trial related to the nuclear accident that led the former TEPCO executives to face charges. On March 11, 2011, the Fukushima Daiichi plant was hit by a massive tsunami caused by a 9.0 magnitude earthquake, the strongest in Japan's recorded history. More than 18,000 people died in the tsunami, but no one was recorded as having been directly killed by the nuclear meltdowns, which caused massive radiation leaks and forced the evacuation of more than 150,000 people living nearby, some of whom have only recently been given permission to return to their homes.
Over in China, millions of urban workers are traveling across the country ahead of the Chinese New Year celebrations. But as workers flood out of megacities to their hometowns, hospitals and clinics in villages are bolstering their supplies of drugs, where many unvaccinated elderly have yet to be exposed to COVID.
In Beijing, the city's main rail station has been packed with passengers leaving the capital in recent days for long-awaited family reunions after China ended its COVID restrictions last month. The government expects over 2.1 billion journeys to be made during a 40-day travel period around the holidays. Officials say the virus has peaked in major cities, but the mass migration of people have sparked concerns, as many elderly in the villages remain unvaccinated and where healthcare systems are less equipped. The Chinese New Year holidays, also known as the Spring Festival, officially starts on January 21st. The revival of travel in China has lifted expectations of a rebound in the world's second-largest economy, which is suffering its lowest growth rates in nearly half a century.
That wraps up AWANI Tonight. I'm Cynthia Ng. Thank you for watching and good night.